You all may know that Something to Talk About is a regular feature here on the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Center. It's something that we started during COVID, and we have kept it going. It is sponsored, and we're grateful for that, by Fieldstone Memory Care. Fieldstone Memory Care is up on Rolling Bay, and they provide memory care services. They're in the old Messenger House.
Messenger House.
And they've done a lovely remake of the facility, and they are now accepting residents. And if you would like a tour, then you can call them and get a tour. And the number to call is 360-271-2530. That's Fieldstone Memory Care, and we're grateful for their sponsorship and support. Today, we're going to talk about what it's like to staff the reception desk at the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Center. And we have a few folks who have been doing that here to help talk to us about it. Eleanor Winnell and Barb Shulock and Kevin Dwyer and Johnny Schmidt are here, and they are all volunteers who have helped out in that way. And so I'm hopeful that you guys might be able to share a little bit about what you like about it, why you volunteered, and let people know what kinds of activities are the responsibility of people who are volunteering to help the center in that way. Barb, I'm going to start with you just because you've been doing it probably the longest of the people who are on the call today. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved in helping in that way.
Well, I was retiring from my real job as a nurse, over commuting all the time to Seattle, and I wanted to do something and kind of fill a little bit of time. And I will say I wanted to really, because I wouldn't be going to Seattle all the time, I wanted to connect with my community, even though I'd lived here a long time. I wanted to really know what was going on Bainbridge Island. And so that was kind of a selfish reason, but it really has helped me do that. It keeps me very up to date. I know what the city's kind of doing, and the different situations that we get into, and so forth. So it's really helped me a lot. Just even in my day-to-day living, sometimes I'll do things maybe a little differently because I know what's going on.
Well, certainly one thing that we were on top of down here were the response to COVID, and you learned a lot about who was giving shots or tests or that kind of thing.
Yeah, giving out that information,
which meant you had to have the information.
Exactly, and I got it. And it's in the whole time I've been doing this, it's only the information and the timeline is better and better all the time, and more inclusive of everything that's going on. So
all right, yes, because you've been around since before the Park District days, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So
and in 2017, the Senior Community Center took over management of day-to-day operations, and Barb stuck with us through thick and thin, and now we're into the new era. Kevin, you have been involved in the city in a number of ways. I know that a couple of times you've sat in the office at the Chamber of Commerce, and now occasionally you sit at the front desk of the Senior Center. Tell us a little bit about the difference between those two jobs.
Well, yeah, thanks for teeing me up here. So some of you probably know I ran the Chamber of Commerce on 2 different occasions from 2001 to 2011. Then I went on and did some other stuff, came back, sort of retired, semi-retired, and then last year during COVID, I was asked to step in and run the chamber for about 8 months, and I filled in for the executive director. Unfortunately, got very sick, and they've since hired somebody else. I didn't want to do it full time again, but yeah, there's the difference I think between what the senior center does and what the chamber does is that there's a lot more visitors obviously that come into Chamber of Commerce office, especially during the height of the tourism season, when you've got people coming off the ferry, you got people wondering, where am I, what can I do, and so forth. The senior center, there's a little bit of that, my experience has been, but it's primarily people who are coming into the senior center for a variety of reasons, whether it's wanting to know about classes or how to join, or you might get somebody wanting to know where the bathrooms are and stuff like that. But so it's the time. My wife and I split. We split a shift, and yeah, it's a good way to get to know people, get to know the senior center. There's some administrative things you have to learn on the computer because there's a software, I believe, Reed, that all way more about than anybody else does. That basically is tailored to running senior centers, and so there's some icons and things you have to learn. Maybe take payments and stuff from people who are taking a class. Sometimes somebody wants to join, so there's some procedures around the paperwork and stuff you have to have them fill out to join. I think a good thing that you guys have installated or initiated is the idea that everybody has to be vaccinated, and that vaccination paperwork has to be in their file. So if somebody comes in and wants to take a class, they have to make sure that they are vaxxed up, and that's on their record, and that they agree to wear a mask and all that kind of stuff. So there's protocols that have been put in place that I think are pretty good. I actually do some volunteering in another organization where they're trying to do the same thing. So anyways.
Great. Yeah, well, we really appreciate you and Mary's participation.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of the things that you mentioned there is that you switch off shifts with your spouse. You can do that with a friend.
Right.
And it's about, generally the shifts are about 4 hours, 4.5 hours.
Right.
And we'd love to have people who come consistently, because as you mentioned, there is as with everything today, there's a lot of computer connection. We have a software system that we use called My Senior Center, and there is some data entry, isn't there? Johnny,
Yeah.
How has that gone for you? Have you mastered the computer?
I can't say I've mastered it, but I'm picking it up. Each time I come, I feel a little more confident. Mary's a good teacher, and I'm really enjoying it. I just moved here in the summer and was looking to get involved and meet people and establish a sense of community, which I'm really grateful to the Senior Center for providing that. I'm enjoying meeting lots of new people, and learning the computer is keeping my mind a little sharp. I like having to learn new things. I'm impressed with how many activities the Senior Center offers. It's really a busy place, and I think working at the front desk keeps me on top of what's happening. Plus, I like helping people. I also started volunteering at the Historical Museum, and that's another good way to establish some sense of community. So overall, I'm really grateful to be here.
Well, we're grateful to have you here. You mentioned Mary. Mary's on the call. Mary Gibbs is the manager of operations. And Mary, what are the things that you have found are both the biggest hurdles and the biggest delights, because you helped to coordinate that front desk team?
Well, the biggest hurdles for me are getting some backup receptionists to fill in when we have people who are traveling. Fortunately, I'm going to have to knock on wood here, because I haven't had any of my receptionists get COVID that I've heard of, and I'm so grateful for that. But they are traveling and taking a little time off here and there, and visiting family, and we always need more people who know what to do to help fill in. I actually need a couple of full-time receptionists, meaning one shift a week, every week. So it's only, 16 to 20 hours a month max, but we could really use a couple more people. We have one of our dearest receptionists is stepping down, and he works all day, and we split that into 2 shifts. So we need some morning and afternoon person to cover Wednesdays. So
Yeah, and Charlie put together a pretty handy guidebook. Eleanor, have you used that guidebook at all?
I have actually, and being me, I have some suggestions for making it a little more visual, and not, but that's because, you know, I do pictures.
That's right, because
It's a great, no, it's a
you have a
great
background in-
resource.
you have a background in architecture. So when you go to look at it, you want to see what it's going to look like, not just what
Yeah.
it says it's going to look like.
You know, arrows and things.
Yep. I agree. We can do that.
But I can work on that.
Oh,
All
good.
right.
I'll take you up on that.
So
We'll let-
I was going to ask Eleanor, what were you also are a relatively new member of the front desk staff. You've volunteered
Yes.
as a board member and in other ways. What kinds of things did you learn about in the position of helping out as a volunteer at the front desk that you didn't realize about the center? Any activities that are going on here, or anything about sort of the people that we come in contact with? Or
You know, what's really been interesting to me is that finding out how much is going on all the time. And, you know, I volunteer on Tuesday afternoon, which I don't want to give anything away, but it's a pretty quiet time on the whole. And which is a good thing, because otherwise I would have quit after the first day. Well, you know, they say the way to keep your brain young is to learn new things, but maybe not all at once. I say that in jest. Mary is a great teacher and a great backup, and I never felt like if I hit something I didn't remember how to do, you just, well, call Mary. I'm also amazed at the variety of questions people will call with, and some of them not necessarily related to the senior center, but gosh, I've gotten good at making up answers, and some of which refer to the wonderful materials that are at the desk that tell you what's what and what's going on. And actually I had one question that I had absolutely no idea what the answer was about getting a COVID test. And I opened up that wonderful notebook and started paging through while I tap danced on the phone, and found an answer that I could give the person. And I said, oh, isn't this great? You don't have to know everything. The information is there for you. So, and, but we've had people come in, and someone came in not long ago looking for a place to rent. Not a service I think we need to take on, but we could at least say, well, if you're looking for the retirement residences of various kinds, those resources are available, etc. And it's really nice to be able to refer people to other organizations that have more information than we do.
yeah, one of our goals is to be a go-to place for information, so that people know that we can at least help them find things. We work with organizations like Helpline. Helpline provides once a week a assistance of a social worker, which is a good place to go for additional help. And of course, Katie Couric is not Katie Couric. Katie, of course, Katie Couric works here.
Katie Couric works on Bainbridge? Wow.
Well, if she did,
She's going to take over Wednesdays.
that's right. Katie O'Shea,
Yeah.
who is our community resource navigator, and we share her services with Island Volunteer Caregivers, and she can help track down things that maybe the front desk can't. Have you ever, well, Barb, you've been here a while, have you ever had any really unusual questions?
Well, as I did mention in my little vignette that you put together or something, a lady did call not so long ago, want to know when her car is ready. And my son said I should have told her it's not quite done painting yellow yet. I was like, oh my God, I might give her a heart attack if I said something like that. I can't think right off the top of my head right now, but that part has happened where people call and ask me seemingly bizarre things, and I'm like, well, I don't know. But one thing I would say, piggybacking on Eleanor's, is when people do call and ask a question and you can't find the information right away, or you're really not sure if you have it, I very, very often take their number and research it and get back to them. But the piece of that is, though, you've got to get back to them. And I really, really try and absolutely do that. But that's actually something I enjoy, because I usually learn something myself. It's like, oh, I didn't know they did that. Or where can you donate used eyeglasses, or who collects this, or those kinds of things, you know. People now know that mostly that you can't go to helpline if you need medical assistance devices, wheelchairs, and so forth. But now we know, at least we have Knights of Columbus. So we have a phone number to give and so forth. And I believe mostly they deliver the things to the people.
Yeah, or we'll get them on the island. And we have also on
Yeah,
occasion
right.
served as a way station for that.
Yeah, so I learn as I go along too, for sure.
Johnny, would you have any, if somebody was asking you about volunteering in this job, what would you say to them?
I would really encourage them. I've been really impressed with how kind everyone has been, and patient when you're trying to answer their questions and find some information. All of the members that I've interacted with have been just really appreciative and really nice. And I think that's one of the real benefits, is seeing how wonderful the community is. I would definitely encourage anybody to volunteer. I think it's very rewarding. It's a little bit challenging, but I think with you, Reed and Mary, always available, it increases confidence in being able to do the job. So I highly recommend it. I'm enjoying it.
Great, we're glad to have you. Mary, what kinds of skills would somebody need? What kinds of capabilities might fit for this particular way of volunteering at the center?
Well, we definitely need some computer skills. You don't need to be an expert by any means, but, you know, be able to turn it on, boot it up, find the programs and do a little data entry, or do a search, name search, so you can find the person that you're helping. And, you know, the training is ongoing, and we can start simple and build on it. And of course, the manual we have is excellent, and we'll add pictures to help and get everybody trained up. The other thing is handling the phones. We do have 3 lines coming in, and sometimes it gets a little scary, but Reed and I pick up the 2nd or 3rd line when they show up on our phones. So we don't leave you stranded in any way. So it's just basic, you know, putting a call on hold or transferring a call. That's the hardest part.
Would you folks who have been volunteering have anything to add to that?
I would just like to say, when people are coming in to be trained with someone, you know, they should be encouraged to spend as many hours as they want just training, and not feel like, you know, they are on their own too soon. And the other thing is, even though they might sign up to do Tuesday morning or Wednesday afternoon, whatever it is, it's really good to train a couple of different days, even if they just sit and listen and so forth, because you might be there Tuesday morning, but they're going to ask you questions about Friday.
Yeah.
Or the upcoming trip, or the something. And the other thing is reading the splash when it comes out, cover to cover, and rereading it, and the daily or weekly, I guess they're weekly emails that you send out, so you can have it fresh in your mind. And I love the fact that you're putting that email on the computer under that envelope. I don't even know the terminology, I'm sorry, but it's in big, and I can get to it very easily and see if I'm missing. Because sometimes I miss it. They ask me about some class that is supposed to start or got canceled, and it's like, I didn't see that. But that's a really good place for me to go find it. So, but a little variety I think can be helpful, even though they might not do that day.
Great, thanks for that.
And I would say 2 things. One, you know, when I first retired, I continue to teach a class online because, well, you know, you have to make some kind of transition between that former life and what happens next. And I think this is a really great opportunity for people who are just retiring to do that sort of thing, because, you know, you keep your skills sharp, and you get to meet new people and learn new things. So, you know, that's all great. And then just a plug for people who might want to consider it in the future. If all goes to plan, by next fall, we will have the new reception desk in the new entry space. And I think that's going to make the job easier and more enjoyable because you're more out there with the people coming in. So it's a great job getting better.
Great.
If I could add one thing, we now get a 10% discount in the thrift shop as a receptionist. So that's just one extra little perk. And it's fun to check out the thrift shop when you're there. It's a wonderful place.
The senior center is really effective mostly because of volunteers. We do a lot of programs here, and as you mentioned, and almost all of them are facilitated by volunteers, including running the front desk. And just a final little item is that when you're at the front desk, you might find, even though you're just retired and don't think that anything at the senior center would have anything to do with you, that there's a program or activity or book group coming up that is just a ticket. So you can learn about what's going on at the senior center without divulging that you are actually a senior.
I hear you.